Hello, everyone. This is Teal Davenport, and welcome to this week's edition of Word on the Go. I want to share with you some brief highlights from our current series we've entitled Finishing Strong. Keep in mind, when I talk about finishing strong, I'm talking about you being able to complete what God has given you to do, not just for this year, but for the course of your life. Look with me at John chapter 11 and pay attention to the first 40 verses or so. Many of you may know the story. It has to do with a guy by the name of Lazarus who Jesus raised from the dead. I want to share with you some truths that have blessed my life, and I pray that it'll bless yours. You know at the very beginning of this story that the first thing his sisters did when they found out that he was sick was they sent word to Jesus. Hunt your neighbor and say, what you need to do is pray. Pray about everything. But then number two, go to verse number 4. You'll find that Jesus gave you his perspective on the matter. He said that this is not the end. This has been allowed, if I can translate it, for the glory of God. So that means that there's some situations in your life and mine that we don't necessarily understand and can't do a thing about. God sometimes allows that so that he might reveal his glory. So don't forget, he knows what he's going to do. Number 3, recognize in verse number 6 that God moves in his own time. So don't get panicky just because it seems like God's not moving as fast as you want. He is moving and he's not going to be late. Point number 4 is that often you and I need to change our perspective. Notice verses 23 through 26 as he's talking to Martha there, and she says, Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. He said, well, your brother's going to live again. And she goes back and tells him that, yeah, he's going to live again one day in the by and by in the resurrection. But he comes back and says, hey, that you're talking about that's way down the road, I am the one, the very one who has the power to do what you're talking about down the road. I'm him, and I'm standing here right now. I am the resurrection. I am the life. Do you believe this? So we recognize that sometimes it's necessary. If you're going to believe to see, you got to change your perspective. But then number 5, recognize that your unbelief, my unbelief, grieves the Lord. You'll notice in verse number 35, it says that Jesus wept. Why in the world was he crying? Was he really crying because Lazarus was dead? Of course not. He just told you at the beginning that this was not unto death. So he knew what he was going to do. So he's not crying because Lazarus is dead, knowing he's going to raise him from the dead. He's crying because the disciples didn't believe. He's crying because Martha didn't believe. He's crying because Mary didn't believe. And yet the one who has the power to do something about it is standing here with them. Your unbelief grieves the Lord. You recognize in verse number 40 when he says that, did I not tell you that if you'd believe, you'd see the glory of God? What does that tell me? That tells me believing precedes manifestation. And last but certainly not least, after raising Lazarus from the dead, he comes forth with grave clothes on and tells them, not the spirit, but tells those who are there witnessing, loose him and let him go. That is, loose to unbind him. Why is that significant? Because even as God moves in your life, understand that there's some things that God's going to do that's going to require people to come along and help you. I pray that this has been a blessing to you, my brother, my sister. And for those that didn't catch all that I had to say, go back and check out the notes. And I pray that, again, this continues to bless you as we empower people through knowledge. We'll see you next time.